think transfers are there to shock people.
They're the deals that have defined the history of the beautiful game. They can make or break a player, a manager, a club, and all have their own intriguing backstories.
If you want it in a nutshell, Laurie McNamee got me in a room and just wouldn't let me out.
It was fast, strong, physical.
It's really the only place I've ever wanted to play.
Why are they going to Tottenham?
I'm hoping this is part of a new alliance.
He gave footballers freedom.
I'm not agreeing with you, I think you're wrong.
It is intriguing, it's intriguing to me.
He was offered glorious riches abroad.
It's football, it's life, it's your destiny.
Absolutely one of the best players in Europe.
It's probably one of the biggest shocks of the season, I think.
Coming up, 20 football transfers that shocked the world.
We were interested in Trevor Francis going back 7 or 8 years, even in our Derby days. We're still interested, and we have had discussions with Jim Smith.
Are you hopeful of signing?
Yes.
The real question now is, are they also prepared to pay £1 million for him?
February 1979, Trevor Francis becomes Britain's first £1 million player. And Brian Clough fits the deal in around his lunchtime game of squash.
Great. I'll put that there just in case it makes a balls of it, and I'll just...
It was such an exciting time. The chance, to play for Nottingham Forest, who were the only team at that time who could actually challenge the mighty Liverpool, and also the opportunity to play for what I considered the most charismatic, person in football, and undoubtedly the best manager at the time in Brian Clough.
Clough always claimed the fee paid to Birmingham was £1 short of the £1 million mark.
It was just Brian, as he was, just being a little bit mischievous with the media. And he was such good copy that whatever he said, the media were interested to write about it.
The truth is, taxes took the deal well over the £1 million.
The actual figure was in excess of 1 million. To be exact, it was 1,150,000.
Old Big Ed was quick to make sure young Trevor remained on terra firma.
To be the best in anything, but to be the best among what you've seen there, it's got to be very special. Get your hands out your pockets.
Yes, sir.
And my many congratulations.
Thanks very much.
I always recall my first game for Nottingham Forest, that was for the first team, was at Portman Road. It seemed that the Ipswich fans, for the whole of the game, seemed to be chanting, "What a waste of money."
Clough's idea was to add sparkle to his formidable Forest side.
Whether I was going to be playing, Brian Clough never announced the side until 11 o'clock, on the morning of the game. There was pressure on me to do well in that final, trying to justify the faith that Brian Clough had shown in me in selecting me, for that final. And I think I did that because not only did I get the all-important goal, but my overall game was good. I think I was voted man of the match. So my debut in Europe certainly was one to remember.
A year later, they retained the European Cup without Francis, undone by an Achilles injury that blighted his Forest career. His place in football's Hall of Fame, however, was already sealed. It's the mid-90s. On Tyneside, a black and white juggernaut is gathering real momentum.
68 goals in 84 games at Newcastle. How can he sell you?
Money. I think ultimately it's a good deal back in those days, 95.
In 2 seasons, Kevin Keegan had transformed Newcastle from lost second division souls to Premier League contenders. Then
Manchester United have taken the plunge again into the transfer market. Andy Cole is reported to have signed from Newcastle United in a deal worth £7 million.
The shock news filters through. The Toons' unstoppable number 9 is being sold to the very club Newcastle aim to overtake.
Well, a very safe photograph today, that's for sure.
No, just down here.
The Geordie nation comes to a standstill, and their messiah of a manager is forced to front it up.
We are no longer a selling club, we are a buying club.
We are.
If
a deal comes along whereby I as manager think I can take the club forward again, I've got to be allowed to do that.
I can remember Kevin coming out on the steps at St James's Park and saying to the fans, trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Newcastle got a British record $6 million. But business is easier to do when love breaks down, and Keegan and Coley had lost their spark.
early on that season. You know, I kind of like walked out when I should have played in the cup game, and I didn't. I mean, we ironed it out and that, but things never, I mean, went the way they used to go beforehand.
When you say walked out, what happened?
Oh, I just had, I mean, differences.
Fergie's sources had tipped him off about the tiff.
I never thought we could ever get him, and it's a pleasant surprise that we got the opportunity.
So he made the phone call, and Kevin said to him, yes, the possibility of that. If I can have Keith Gillespie, you can have Andrew Cole, and that was it.
The following season, Shearer and Ferdinand would lead Newcastle's line when United overturned a 12-point deficit to win the double.
I come here for Cole!
The first of 10 major honours for Cole at Old Trafford. Newcastle's cupboard remains bare.
Do you think if Kevin had his time over again, he'd still sell you?
Who knows?
I do it on behalf of the fans, and I hope they understand it.
They called him the greatest little Dane. Alan Simonsen remains the only player to score in out of Barcelona. And Simonsen said no to Real Madrid, Juventus and Tottenham to sign for impoverished second division Charlton Athletic. Why, Alan?
My ambition is to try something new, to get Charlton in the first division.
Alan Simonsen's certainly going to find life a lot different here at Charlton in the English second division. In Barcelona, he was used to playing in front of crowds of 90,000. That's 84,000 more than the average home gate at the Valley.
It was all a last-ditch attempt by Charlton to generate funds. Ominously, Simonsen's debut was delayed by 6 weeks when Barca demanded bank guarantees.
Alan Simonsen of Denmark, the former European Footballer of the Year, but still not a Charlton Athletic player.
When he finally got his name on the team sheet and pulled on the red shirt, his class was clear.
And a shot, and a great goal by Simonsen!
It'll be a great success in British football.
But it all ended as suddenly as it began. Charlton couldn't pay his wages, and after only 16 games, Alan went home to Denmark.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Osvaldo Ardiles and Ricardo Villa.
The two men that so many had come to see on the left, Ardiles, behind him there, Villa, the Argentinian.
They came as a pair, the first foreign stars to really make themselves at home in English football. In the summer of '78, Osvaldo Ardiles and Ricky Villa arrived at White Hart Lane to a ticker-tape welcome befitting World Cup winners. Little England had opened its doors.
I think a lot of people were shocked. Why are they going to Tottenham?
We know about maybe Manchester United, maybe Liverpool, but not about Tottenham, you know.
They just won the World Cup. If they're going to go anywhere, it's going to be a Manchester United, it's going to be Liverpool. It's going to be, you know, one of those teams up there at the very top. But no, they've gone to Tottenham.
The beautiful thing about the offer was that it was not only one of us, but the two of us together.
And what a difference they made at Tottenham. And Tottenham was the right fit for them.
It was an innocent age. Aussie's all-action style and dodgy accent charmed the fans. Ricky's homesickness prompted mailbags of support and delight when the big man finally came good.
And lazily swinging the left foot, but Ricky Villa. Spurs are on their way to Wembley. Tottenham's gonna do it again.
Not even teaming up with Cockney duo Chaz and Dave could dent their popularity. And when Villa meandered his way to the cup final winner, voted Wembley's goal of the century, there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
3-2 to Tottenham! It's Argentina's night, no mistake.
It really was my best goal in my history, of course.
That was a defining moment, I will say. This is how important it was.
A place in Spurs folklore followed. 2 Argentinians, 1 London club, a perfect fit. You don't see that very often.
Jude
Judas. Football fans don't forget.
It would mean so much for me to do well for Tottenham, then go somewhere else. So I'm happy here.
It's the modern player's prerogative to change his mind.
When he's called a traitor, when he's called Judas, what do you think?
It's unfair.
10 years ago, he was the jewel in Tottenham's rusty crown. The academy kid made good. Their captain, a White Hart Lane legend in the making. Only Sol Campbell was out of contract, a Bosman freebie to the top bidder.
He was offered glorious riches abroad from some of the biggest clubs in the world.
Well, I'm not going nowhere.
He did say, though, during that time, I pledge my future to Spurs.
What he said was that whilst he was under contract, he pledged his future.
Tremendous player. Shame he done the dirty on Spurs.
But loyalty cuts both ways, doesn't it?
Because you've received no improved contract from Tottenham Hotspur in 18 months.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It was a decision that was taken very late. He decided on one evening that was the place for him to play football, and then the following morning, at 9 o'clock in the morning, a press conference was called.
Shock. Horror.
A great team, manager, the setup is geared up to win.
Sol had signed for the enemy, up the road, the Arsenal.
I dream about playing at the top level, so and this is why I'm here,
The moment I switched my phone on after the press conference, I received, let's say, some unsavoury text messages, and it was an unsavoury period.
There were slings and arrows, effigies and death threats. Arsenal even had to throw in a bodyguard.
You can understand Sol wanting to do that because he's wanting to win trophies and and better his career. And I think going to Arsenal at that time was probably the right choice for him.
Campbell was a double winner the following season, and invincible in 2004. A legend or a traitor?
Sol Campbell for Arsenal!
Depends on your North London allegiance. A singular man, for better or worse.
Was it an act of courage or betrayal?
It was an act of doing the right thing for his football career.
Coming up.
It's not a great place to be the dressing room when it decides it's time to move on.
My wife still can't believe it. Until today, she said when we got here, she never really believed that we were coming back.
Spot the difference now. I remember Graham Taylor saying to me, we've had an offer from some Italian club that wants to buy you.
And who were they?
AC Milan. Yeah, amazing, yeah. Quite incredible.
AC Milan's proud history is littered with legendary names. Baresi, Van Basten, Gullit, Maldini. Blissett?
Wow. Never. How come?
Because in 1983, Luther Blissett was the best striker in England. A goal machine in the Graham Taylor-made Watford Express. He earned himself a golden boot and a few extra lira.
The wages that I got was improved from what I was getting at Watford, which was, for everybody, about £550 a week. That's what it was. So
at Watford?
At Watford, yeah.
And at Milan?
Yeah, it was not a lot more. It was probably about £700-800 a week.
And yet you cost £1 million?
Yeah.
Which at the time was an awful lot of money.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Blissett's in the middle, it's the hat-trick!
Luther had scored a hat-trick on his England debut. Elton John sang his praises. But word began to spread. Had Milan signed the right player?
The old rumour started that they were meant to buy John Barnes rather than buy me.
No, not that one.
Spot the difference now.
This one.
Truth or fiction? Was it a case of mistaken identity?
Nah, it's fiction. It's a load of nonsense. Absolute load of nonsense.
Milan's £1 million man joined the list of British strikers to suffer in the land of Catenaccio. Italy was, as Ian Rush once said, like a foreign country.
Probably the Italian style will have not suited him completely. The skills, the long balls, the tactique, the environment, the pasta probably.
Would it have all been different if you'd had those?
You know, you're in San Siro. What can you miss? You're in Italy. What can you miss? You know, and I said, no. I said, the only thing, can't get any Rice Krispies. And that was it. And that sort of like stuck with everybody ever since.
Within a year, he was back at Watford for a bargain half price. But his name lives on. Several years later, a group of Italian anarchists called themselves the Luther Blissett Project. Their cause became a global phenomenon.
You know, and the book they came out with as well was in the bestsellers for about 3-4 weeks, you know. No royalties, I'm afraid, no, sorry. I tried.
He was a lower league pro from Belgium.
Name that fella.
Jean-Marc Bosman.
In 1990, his club Liège priced him out of a move to Dunkirk, even though his contract was up.
How do you sum up what he did for the game of football and the transfer world?
He gave footballers freedom.
Players sign contracts, and when their contract's over, they are still the property of the club, and their contract's over. They're in no man's land, but the club can demand a fee. That is total disgraceful. That is disgraceful. Most disgraceful.
Bosman took his case for freedom of movement to the European Court of Justice and won after a 5-year battle. He was awarded £700,000. The Bosman ruling handed players the power to run down their contracts and switch clubs. Out went the transfer fee, in came huge signing-on fees. Player power was born.
Bosman rules is one step forward for the players.
For a player's point of view, there's never been a better time to be a professional footballer.
It's come full circle now, because now we have a hell of a lot of unemployment within the game. And so there are players being released and then they can't get another club.
As for Bosman, he's broke and living on benefits back in Belgium.
Before we was like a cow, you can sell everyone, you can decide, now you can decide. This is a really important thing.
There's only one player to win successive English League titles with different teams.
It's Eric Cantona, yeah.
And some Leeds fans have still not forgiven their club.
I haven't had a problem in my football career up to now with any player I've worked with.
Eric the Enigmatic arrived at Leeds and the world's press was somewhere else.
Good runner, good in the air. So he had everything going for him, but his track record says he couldn't stay too long at a club.
He reads poetry, he reads philosophy, he paints. Maybe that's different. I hope he's different out there.
He was. Leeds would be league champions.
It has been really a fairy tale end of the season for Eric in particularly, hasn't it? Because his career was going nowhere, and then he comes to Leeds, and within, a few months he's got a championship win.
Doesn't agree with that, Elton. No, but it's a great story for Eric. He had a few problems in France, but he's come over here, settled in very, very well. The fans love him. I'm sure he's got a great future at the club, and it's a great way to start your career with a football club.
6 months later, the romance had gone. Leeds' form had dipped.
Eric himself decided it's time to move on. And when Eric decides, it's not a great place to be the dressing room when Eric decides it's time to move on.
There is a conspiracy theory that Leeds sold Cantona to Manchester United because they thought he would disrupt the growing momentum at Old Trafford.
You know, it was just a case of a guy who didn't want to be at our place and who was having an effect in the dressing room, and he had to move on.
We look upon it as a progress for him, that he's come to a big club. Leeds United are a fabulous big club, but I think you'll find that Manchester United is even bigger.
He was the perfect man at the perfect time for that club.
He's got a fiery reputation, a fiery Frenchman, and with due respect, a fiery Scot. How's that relationship going to develop?
Well, the French and Scots have a great old alliance, if you know your history. I'm hoping this is part of a new alliance.
Fergie has called it his greatest ever signing. Cantona had found his home. The first of Fergie's 11 league titles soon followed. And Leeds have won nought since Eric said au revoir.
If he'd stayed?
Oh, I could have been a couple of punch-ups. It was too big for me, that's for sure. Somebody else would have got hit in the nose.
If you win the ball off him there, if you win possession there, you're only 30 yards from goal.
But he wasn't going there and getting the ball. He was just dragging me in there and McDermott's coming off Mackie.
But I mean, McDermott wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, he went on about 5 runs and he was on his own.
Steve Daly and Manchester City, a marriage made in transfer hell.
Was it 1.5 million or something like that? I mean, how much would that be these days? 30, 40 million?
In September 1979, Andy Gray signed for Wolves, who sold Steve Daly to Manchester City for the same eye-watering British record fee.
I have to tell you that I was mighty relieved when Steve Daly, went from Wolves to Manchester City for $1.5 million, because obviously my record was beaten.
You're the one who's got to come next, and then everybody else.
And I don't think to this day Steve Daly fully realises just what a weight off my shoulder that was.
Sadly for City, Daly could barely move, the fee weighed so heavy. Manager Malcolm Allison and chairman Peter Swales blamed each other for overpaying. 20 months later, Daly had to leave the country, sold to Seattle for £300,000. Extravagance will continue to define City's identity, but the Steve Daly deal was truly in a league of its own.
It's no good you agreeing with me.
I'm not agreeing with you, I think you're wrong.
No, but I mean agreeing with you on Friday and then not doing it on Saturday.
If you want it in a nutshell, Laurie McNamee got me in a room and just wouldn't let me out.
After the twin horrors of his spell as England manager and his bubble perm, it's easy to forget just what a pioneer Kevin Keegan really was.
Ich heiße Kevin Keegan, komme aus Liverpool, bin verheiratet, 27 Jahre alt, gelernt habe ich kaufmännische.
He was English football's first international brand, image-conscious, dedicated to winning.
I think to win it once was fantastic. To win it twice is a dream.
But into his second season as the star man in Hamburg, even Mighty Mouse's long-life batteries were running low.
I honestly don't think there's a footballer in the world been under as much pressure I've been under these last 3 weeks. If there is, I'd like to meet him, if he's still alive.
Southampton boss Laurie McMenemy was watching. Liverpool had the first option to re-sign Keegan.
I would like, ladies and gentlemen, to bring us to the next stage of this club's progress.
And in January 1980, jaws dropped as the Saints boss unveiled his new signing, the one on the right.
My wife still can't believe it. Until today, she said when we got here, she never really believed that we were coming back, That's how quickly it all happened. And I think I am very impulsive, and I've got no regrets.
The odd couple suited each other. Keegan averaged a goal every other game, and the Dell was never empty.
And what a reception for the England captain back from Germany. Such is the demand to see him that every Southampton home league match this season is an all-ticket affair. Kevin Keegan is back.
Still to come.
I'm just delighted to be back.
It's fast, strong, physical.
He was having a Porsche and he blew one of the tyre.
I'm his ball boy now. When he's shooting in training, I'll be picking the balls up.
It remains the most notorious transfer in Scottish football history.
Mo Johnston!
Mo Johnston's arrival signalled the end of 100 years of bigotry at Ibrox. No longer will a player's religion be the criteria to become a Rangers player.
A Catholic signing for Rangers was almost unheard of, but Johnston was also a former Celtic star when he crossed Glasgow's sectarian divide.
It borders on evil at times. If people get murdered by wearing a different colour, then that's evil. There's absolutely no hiding place in the west coast of Scotland.
Johnston had helped Celtic to the double 3 years earlier with his goals, and after a spell in France was paraded back at Parkhead.
Joining a club like Celtic again, I'm just delighted. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's really the only place I've ever wanted to play. I'm just delighted to be back.
Back in Glasgow. At the last minute, Johnston signed for Rangers. Mojo was now Judas.
I came to a really big club, possibly one of the biggest in Europe.
There's a reaction when I wore a blue shirt on our first day at Celtic. That sums it up, so you can imagine it. And I had to change my car. I had a blue car. I was advised to change my car. So That's a shot in a car. Can you imagine what changing size at the last minute does for you?
He's a big boy. He's been at a big club on the other side of the city. He knows what the west of Scotland football scene's about.
I think he likes annoying people now and then, Graham, which is good fun.
He was judged solely on his football ability, and that's why I bought him.
Johnston shone, scoring 46 goals in 2 years as Rangers began a run of 9 successive Scottish titles. But Souness had a vision for the future of the Old Firm rivalry.
And there will be big changes in football in the coming years. If we were to go forward, we had to break this barrier.
Mo was brave in doing that, there's no doubt about that, and so was Graham. But it's not only broken down any barriers, trust me. Okay, in the recent Celtic Rangers game, there were 300 arrests at the game. The jails in Glasgow literally couldn't take any more. So I think it's getting even worse now. I wished we could say it broke down barriers and we all lived happily ever after in the west of Scotland, but it's not changed a bit.
Remember the name, Wayne Rooney.
The face was fresher, the physique a touch rounder, but Wayne Rooney already knew his own mind.
I can confirm that Wayne Rooney has asked for a transfer and we'll consider it.
An Everton debutant and Premier League phenomenon at 16, once a blue, always a blue was his T-shirt of choice. He was England's youngest player, record-breaking had come easy. But Everton tried to persuade Wazza to play the long game.
Wayne's told me face to face that he would like to play in Europe. He feels that would be good for him. I actually think his development would be better at Everton.
On deadline day 2004, Manchester United got their boy wonder.
That's it, Wayne, just this way.
25.6 million was the highest fee ever paid for a player under 20.
Sir Alex decided to buy Rooney from Everton. I remember that I met him in Lyon. He told me, Fabio, I'm crazy. I paid for one of your players incredible money.
Fergie didn't expect the fee to burden those broad young shoulders, but even Sir Alex was shocked by this. United had granted Rooney his wish for European football. How he repaid them on his first appearance, his Champions League debut.
Some things are just meant to be.
Considering the price tag, considering the level, how good a debut was that?
Well, considering it's his first game, I think it was magnificent.
Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa! What a goal!
Hoax was the word on everyone's lips when word spread the legendary Socrates was about to sign for Garforth Town. How could the captain of the great Brazil sides of 82 and 86 wash up in West Yorkshire, playing on the 10th rung of the English ladder? Well, Garforth's owner, Simon Clifford, ran an empire of football schools based on Brazilian techniques. And the philosopher footballer was coming to England with his samba skills and ciggies. They say you never lose it.
Still smokes like a chimney, but he looks good actually.
Okay, that's it.
Socrates warmed up with a personal appearance at the Meadowhall shopping centre. He was raring to go.
It's possible to play more or less.
Well, less.
20 or 30 minutes.
A record crowd of 1,300, Garforth's biggest for 40 years, turned up to see their star signing.
Looking forward to hopefully seeing him play some good passes and play the Brazilian way.
They waited, and they waited, before Socrates finally peeled off the blankets and rolled back the years. He had one shot, played 12 minutes, before complaining of a nasty headache. A brief but unforgettable encounter.
Poor lad were in dugout with his hat on, his scarf on, his bovril, and just to see him there, that's it, it's all worthwhile.
Clifford has also tried to entice Zico and Bebeto to wear the Garforth gold. They've not got back to him yet. He was the world's most expensive player.
Gigi Lentini.
Signed by Fabio Capello.
He was a really big talent. He was fast, strong, physically, was really good.
You know, somebody known in the world as the best player, the best midfielder in the 90s. You know, AC Milan also was playing the 4-4-2. And we were really in need of a player, a winger, somebody who, you know, at any time can start the action. And he was the one. He was the key to deliver afterwards the ball.
He was really good player, and because he can change the game in every moment.
His capacity, you know, to take players on like Cristiano Ronaldo, like Figo, like Ginola, you know, that type of player that you cannot stop him.
Gigi also embraced the role of playboy to the paparazzi. Until, a year after signing for Milan, life in the fast lane caught up with him.
I remember really well what happened, the accident that he suffered.
He was having a Porsche and he blew one of the tire. And he's gone, you know, much more than what the wheel could take, and he had the accident.
I phoned to the club and told Fabio, Lentini is at the hospital. It was terrible.
Somehow Lentini survived serious injury to emerge from a coma. But
you could see the skills, how he was, you know, before the accident, and after the accident, the balance was completely different.
After this accident, he never returned at the same player that I knew before.
What could he have been, but for the accident?
Wow! Absolutely one of the best players in Europe.
90% of the people would not tell you or remember who he is. Then it's a shame, but it's football, it's life, it's your destiny.
Do you believe in destiny?
I don't believe in destiny.
They did in Newcastle in the summer of 1996.
No one wants to win silverware more than I do, and if anyone deserves success, then it's you lot. Thanks very much. Thank you.
It was the moment Newcastle United stood at the centre of the football universe.
Kevin Keegan takes a final lap of honour, his distinguished career at an end. But a few yards away is a 13-year-old ball boy who now has the world at his feet. Alan Shearer, his treasured black and white scarf round his neck, soaks up the atmosphere.
I'm his ball boy now. You know, when he's shooting in training, I'll be picking the balls up. It's funny how life works out.
Sir John Hall had written a world record £15 million cheque. Nobody on Tyneside would tell you it wasn't money well spent.
I think it shocked everyone, to be honest. You know, 15 million at the time was a lot of money. But in terms of anything, you know, if you want the best, you've got to pay for it.
After years of seeing their assets stripped or sold off, Newcastle had signed England's number 9, their local boy from Gosforth, made good.
It's his day, it's your day, and it's lovely to see a Geordie come back home.
Shearer had met with Man U, but Keegan's patter had been persuasive. A nostalgic tug had done the rest.
It certainly won't change me. After all, I'm only a sheet metal worker's son from Newcastle.
It was royal wedding, papal visit and cup final parade rolled into one. Sir John Hall's Newcastle never did understatement. Imagine the party if they'd actually won something. After the break.
I think he hurt a lot of people, you know.
We've already seen the first £100 million player.
We are back.
His signing ushered in the era of the Galacticos.
I think transfers are there to shock people. You know, that's what everyone wants.
In 2000, nobody at Barcelona expected their number 7 to sign for Real Madrid.
And Figo!
But Luis Figo's contract had a buyout clause. Real found the world record 37 million. And Catalonia and Spain were in conflict once more, with a Portuguese in the middle.
You need a little bit of, as the Spanish say, cojones.
You need balls.
By crossing the divide, Figo was branded a traitor in Catalonia. They doubled the police presence every time he wore the white of Real back at the Nou Camp.
The European Cup is heading home.
But he'll tell you 2 league titles and a Champions League win proved him right. And last year, the retired Figo returned to the front line as Inter Milan's sporting director to inflict more Barcelona misery. As Jose Mourinho's Inter stunned the favourites in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Post-World Cup, and 2 Argentina stars signed for a London club. Sound familiar? But this deadline day deal would not have a happy ending.
We've got a countdown, 10 seconds we got.
In 2006, West Ham thought they were getting 2 world-class Argentinians for nothing. The shock transfer ended up costing them a fortune.
When it got put to me that there was an opportunity that they could seriously be coming, I don't think as a coach or a manager that you turn down the opportunity to bring 2 world-class players to your club.
There was no doubting the quality of the commodities, just who owned them.
So I have assurances, and I made sure of that they're not going in the next window.
Businessman Kia Joorabchian was the brains behind the controversial double transfer from Corinthians. The Hammers board were charmed into believing they'd done the deal of the decade.
Most of you are in here for the intrigue that surrounds this move. You know, let's be honest, it is intriguing. It's intriguing to me. But to be honest, I don't care. I'm so pleased that they're here. So pleased we have 2 world-class players at West Ham, and our fans should rejoice. That's my view.
And they did, Alan, at first. In September 2006, the West Ham theme tune serenaded Tevez and Mascherano into Upton Park. But it wasn't long before the bubble burst and reality bit. By the next transfer window, Pardew had been sacked, and Mascherano had got his dream move to Liverpool. Tevez became a Hammers hero, keeping them up with his goals. Before it emerged, West Ham had entered into illegal third-party ownership agreements. That one deal cost them £15 million in compensation to relegated Sheffield United.
Cheers guys, thank you for coming.
I was quite shocked, to be honest. Just a few weeks before, you got Fernando, in the local Liverpool papers saying how much he loved the club, the fans, and all of a sudden, he's changed his mind, and he's gone to Chelsea.
I'm very excited about this new life and this new era.
Probably one of the biggest shocks of the season, I think.
January the 31st, 2011, the craziest day in English transfer history. 135 million is spent.
I have been in this situation before when I signed for Liverpool. Big money, big expectations, so it's nothing new for me.
Liverpool receive a British record 50 million for Fernando Torres. Betrayal is the watchword.
Fernando Torres is he's a world-class player, and you don't really like seeing players like that leave. I think he hurt a lot of people, and that's, me being me, a Liverpool lad, and I'm still wanting Liverpool to do well.
Liverpool spent 35 million of the fee on Andy Carroll, a raw 22-year-old. But did Chelsea overpay? Their signing of the 4th costliest player ever looks set to test that old adage: form is temporary, class is permanent.
2 years ago, if you have said that Fernando Torres is being sold for that price, then you have said, oh, but it's a great player. He's worth it. He's not the Torres that, we were looking for. And when you look at the price, it seems quite expensive.
I think he's going to be a great asset for Chelsea. I think he scored goals here, so me personally, I look at it as a bargain.
UEFA are set to penalise clubs who build up debt. But in the Premier League, it appears short-term gain remains the name of the game.
I'm coming from France, where we are able to buy very expensive wine And let's say that is the same thing. You take it, you open it, and hope that it's going to be worth it.
It was the first transfer to stretch beyond football's simple boundaries. In 1975, the fledgling North American Soccer League needed an X-factor. Pelé, 2 years retired, needed the money. Razzmatazz entered the football lexicon.
I come to play in America because I believe in soccer in America.
A $3 million contract appealed. Pelé's notorious ego was also won over by the challenge to conquer the final frontier and to star in what at times resembled one long promotional video. But this transfer went right to the top. Gerald Ford and Henry Kissinger had to persuade the president of Brazil to give the deal his blessing. Pelé finally signed on. His move persuaded other greats to live the American dream. This was escape to victory without Sylvester Stallone.
The man whose elegance, dignity, and love of fellow man has surpassed all international boundaries.
Crowds peaked at 80,000. The Cosmos won the title in Pelé's final season. The game of soccer had its Hollywood ending.
He scores!
It was a beautiful thing. Post-Pelé, the league went bust, and the new MLS vowed never to pin all their hopes on one icon. But stars sell stateside, especially in the Big Apple. Coming soon, the new New York Cosmos, starring Pelé as honorary president. And also,
we are back.
It's deja vu all over again. And finally, he tops the price list.
The former Manchester United star was presented to Madrid's supporters last night.
A world record 80 million was the official fee, but
we've already seen the first £100 million player.
His wages amount to another 40 million, so
his packaged deal is surpassed 100 million by quite a distance.
I honestly can't understand how clubs can even contemplate doing that.
It was an offer Manchester United couldn't refuse. 80 million will buy you a few prawn sandwiches. Ronaldo's price tag looks a tough one to overtake. But then they said that about Trevor Francis.
To beat this record, you need to buy Messi.
Medals and value for money matters, but a transfer deal that shocks the world has always been about so much more. Showbiz, politics, buyout clauses and bending the rules, religious fervour, pride, local and national, breaking down barriers, putting them back up again. Image rights and profit, about daring to challenge and to dream. And of course, the ego of chairmen, managers, presidents and players. They're the moves that keep football turning. The transfers that shock the world.
Get your party head on, we're off to Paris with Van Damme to celebrate his 50th birthday next. A brand new, unseen episode of Jean-Claude Van Damme Behind Closed Doors is coming right up. Then straight after, Sly Stallone stars in the Oscar-winning boxing flick, Rocky, at 11.